Are you tired of wondering why you literally have no focus, no motivation, no kind of discipline? The feeling that you're just consistently chasing dopamine rushes, constant comparison of others, constant symptoms of depression, anxiety, ADHD, and any other personality disorders that you might have diagnosed yourself with via TikTok? There's this idea of just because you can do it doesn't mean you should. What is going on? How is everybody doing today? I hope that you're doing well. It is Monday morning, Monday, February 24th, the day that the Voice of America made its first broadcast in German to counter the propaganda of Nazi leaders. It is the day that Steve Jobs, if you're a fan of Steve Jobs, he was born today. Not today, but, I guess today, but 70 years ago. And it's also the day that the regime of Fidel Castro adopted the Constitution of Cuba, which mandated the operation of only one political party, that being the Communist Party of Cuba, most likely, I think. U.S. ground operations began today in the Persian Gulf War, more than a month after air war was launched against Iraq in the attempt to free Iraqi occupied Kuwait. That was 1991, a couple of years before yours truly was born. And still haven't achieved peace in the Middle East. We've been at it for a while, I guess. But and also today, on this day, our boy, the late great, I guess maybe not the best term to use, but our boy Harvey Weinstein was convicted in 2020 and in Los Angeles in 2022. And the New York conviction was on this day, February 24th, 2020. It says here, maybe he was sentenced on this day, I think, on February 23rd, 2023. But obviously, he's been released, I think. I think he's got his release date, and it looks like a retrial is now scheduled for April 15th, 2025. So we'll see what happens. Okay, now that that's out of the way, there's your little history review of this day. I hope you guys like that. When it comes to this idea of like focus and motivation, like I kind of just talked about in the very beginning, before that cool music came on or whatever, but on that topic of like this these symptoms of ADHD, depression, anxiety, those types of things that I feel like an extremely heightened amount of people are dealing with. Like I feel like it's I guess a better way to say it is like an increasing amount of people year after year. Like the more people I talk to, the more people are telling me about how they have this fucking personality disorder, or they have this symptom of this issue or whatever it is, and it seems to be pretty consistent across the board. Most people nowadays, I feel like, are just unhappy, a little stressed, a little anxious, a little bit unmotivated. They can't focus on anything. They can't, there's like no discipline or accountability. We have this, this consistent comparison and feeling of like looking for the next high, basically. Like we're all somehow addicted to fucking everything, whether it's drugs, alcohol, or some sort of like a I don't know, behavioral addiction or whatever it is. And I think that a lot of it has to do with the fact that, these, like, we literally consistently are looking at these screens in our faces. We're always using technology. Like, I think that obviously, the increase and the rate of increase even of technology has just been insane throughout our lifetimes. I'm almost 30 at this point. I was born in 95, and so like I went from literally like having a phone plugged into the wall, like in the kitchen of my house, and everyone kind of shared the one landline, to having basically that I'm plugged into the phone at this point. Like that's how it literally, like, a lot of us, we can't go 5 seconds or like, yeah, literally 5 seconds without knowing where our phone is. Like I just, think about how much stress or anxiety you might get, or maybe you're not honest with yourself. Maybe you might have to experiment and try this out, but go on a walk, like go outside and leave your phone at home and see how long it takes you for you to think about, just like looking at your phone or where your phone is or what. I remember there was like studies about, like people were saying in this poll a while back, and I'm not even going to look this up, or you guys can look this up, but I remember there was like this poll where people were asked, would you rather lose your wallet or lose your phone? And people were surprised that the majority of people were like, I'd rather lose my wallet than lose my phone. And, I think it's because we literally have our entire lives on these fucking things. Like, you're not supposed to, it's just insane. There's so many different ways, and, that having screen time consistently is destroying our lives. Like if you look at, social media and porn and how it's sexualized everything, for men, it's kind of like obviously desensitized, like the sexuality of people and objectifying women to, and just normalizing like weird fucked up kinks. And I don't mean to like kink shame or fetish shame, but I kind of do. Like there's like this weird, I don't want to say deviancy, but like kind of this just like like our generation's just fucked. You guys, it doesn't need any more explanation than that. But there's also the side of it that's like it's also just killing the motivation of the men in our generation, because before, imagine how hard you'd have to work to literally see what you could see now with no effort at all. You could just look on. Before you had to be like a desirable partner, and now you just have to have a Wi-Fi connection. That's pretty much it. And what is that doing to this generation of men? And not only that, but what is it doing to this generation of women where they literally are not only taught that there's value in sexualizing themselves, but also like that's pretty much their only value, and that's rewarded for, financially or through attention. And not to mention the fact that it's basically a giant, sex trafficking ring. But that in and of itself is probably enough for most people to think, what the fuck is he on about? Or you're tired of hearing about it. Depends on what your algorithm's like. But even little things like the way that we're just like consistently watching vlogs and blogs and reality shows and other people's lives, like consistently, and podcasts, like consistently listening to people and normalize gossip and kind of like talking shit all the time, like focusing on the negative things, looking for like gotcha moments, like kind of, I guess, normalizing or glamorizing kind of poor communication or using your words to hurt other people to create echo chambers a lot of the time with social media. And then obviously there's the idea of like censorship and propaganda and all of that dark stuff as well. And so like we have these devices in our pockets consistently that, yes, of course they can help us out. I pull out my calculator at work all the fucking time when I'm dealing with like things that it's like too many numbers to add or divide by or whatever it is, like calculating angles. And there is something cool about being able to just Google whatever you think about. Like, hey, I have this question about ancient Japan, or hey, I have this question about like this religion, or whatever it could be. And it's cool to be able to facilitate, just answering things like that all the time. But it's not so cool that, all of these things are so readily available. So anybody out there that's just like needing to scratch the itch of a fucking dopamine rush is able to look up whatever they need to look up, instead of actually having the motivation to achieve whatever that virtual experience is in real life. And it's just like a weird thing about, I don't know. I was just thinking about it this morning because one of the things I've been trying to do recently, because everyone knows how dangerous, how much screen time we have, like how much of our lives we're literally wasting every single day, playing games. And I'm victim of it too. Doom scrolling, playing games, like all of these things. Like, I'm just as guilty as anybody else. I do these things as well, like I do the doom scrolling. I sit there and I, scroll and scroll and scroll. I play video games sometimes. I play games on my phone even. Like I'm fucking, I'm about that life as well. I get it. But, when you literally think about, or you look at how many hours, you spend on your phone on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, and you calculate it on a yearly basis, it's like you're probably giving up literally days and weeks, months, years of your life to just like, if you were to look at in a third person view and you're just like sitting there and you're just like kind of like slack jawed fucking, mouth breathing and fucking staring at a screen. Like, I don't know. I know that for myself personally, I wouldn't be fucking proud to see myself doing that. And so like it's, and this is just something, and here's one of the techniques that I was using recently. This is what I was going to get on about, is like this reference of like having the kitchen phone, the corded, the landline phone, when we, like in the 90s, in the early 2000s, like it was like there was a place in the house for the phone. And now it's like these little fucking perfectly convenient things that fit in your pocket. You can carry it around all the time. And that's why I made that reference earlier of like, just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. Just because this thing fits in your pocket doesn't mean it should go in your pocket. In fact, literally at a family dinner a couple weeks back, my sister pulls out her phone, and on the iPhone, I don't know, you guys can look this up. Maybe I'll look it up. It'd be cool if I had a producer or something like that, but I could look it up. But Apple warning in settings on phone about being in pocket, I think is a I think it was in the terms of agreements. I might have to skip through some of this because this is probably fucking not the best entertainment, but bear with me here. Yeah. Okay, so I've just tried to look it up, and maybe I'll just have to do this at a later time because I'm just not being able to find it right now, and I'm not looking on my phone. But you guys can look this up as well. There's just so many different little warnings in these kind of safety, like terms and conditions that are in your iPhone. And, I've tried to find the exact wording that my sister was using in regards to how close you should have them to your body, and, basically saying that we shouldn't have these things in your pockets. Like, men, women, you are literally microwaving your fucking sexual organs. So something to think about. I don't know, like if keeping it in a fanny pack or a backpack or something like that. Maybe the fucking dads of our generation were right, and keeping it in that little belt holster is the way to go. And that's why they're just fucking alpha chads, and we're just like, a little bit fucking softer than them. But there's all this stuff about even just saying here, like you basically, it says here, like it's avoid prolonged skin contact with the charging cable and connector when the charging cable is connected to a power source. And then just says it might cause discomfort or injury. It talks about like sleeping near your phone, talks about sleeping, near it and on it when it's charging, all these different kind of warnings. Having it near certain things. One of the weird things that was like, it said like to keep it in a ventilated area when it's charging. It's like, why would it need to have that? But, I think there's something behind this thought process of like, I don't think that smartphones and computers were meant to be fucking on us at all times. They're not supposed to even probably be within reach at all times. I think that there's something powerful behind like having a place designated for these things, like an office, a desk, a table, or whatever, like a charging station, a chair that you go to, that kind of thing, because then it allows us to be a little bit more intentional with our time of like, okay, I'm going to go to the phone to post on social media, to call my friend, to check my text messages, to do this, to do that. The same way that, when you go to check your emails, and you go and sit down at your computer and, blah, 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 blah. Like when you go to go to work, it's time to work. You have this kind of like brain association, of, now I go to this physical space to perform this duty, this act. And I think that kind of allows us to be a little bit more intentional about our time and aware of how we spend our time, because instead of just like kind of, oh, I'm going to go for a walk, and I end up just like kind of walking around playing Pokemon Go and doom scrolling, I actually go for a walk and experience like having different thoughts and emotions maybe, and then coming home and sitting down and writing those things down in a journal, that type of thing. I think that obviously it's not even like oh, here's my fucking hot take, we need to be on our phones less. I guess what I'm trying to say is like, one of the things that I think is, we need to set like hard certain boundaries for ourselves, like specific boundaries for ourselves in regards to these devices, because literally they're not going anywhere. They're just going to get better and better and more tempting to use all the time. And I think it's obvious that the more that we use them, the more that we, become lesser versions of ourselves. Like it literally makes us, more unhappy, more, I don't even need to get into the list of how it fucks us all up. We all know it does. We just like literally cannot stop. It's just so compulsive at this point. And I think that one of the ways that we can kind of differentiate, or I guess make a difference in that, is to be intentional with like, maybe just having a designated space for the use of these things. Maybe if like you go into your office and you put your phone in your drawer, in your desk, and you're like, okay, I'm just going to open this when I need to do this, when I need that, when I would, when I need to make a post for marketing, or, because all of us have these 1,000,001 excuses of why we need to go on our phones and our computers and connect, and we all have our like little favorite apps. Like how many of us just unintentionally throughout the day, I find myself doing this all the time, where like I kind of just pull my phone out looking for a little fucking drip of that dopamine. Like it's like, okay, I'll just go through a cycle of like, like I'll open YouTube, I'll open Instagram, I'll open Facebook and check I'll check like Twitter, I'll check this, I'll check that, I'll check my DMs, my group chats, like all these different, and I just go through a cycle of like, okay, let's check this, anything interesting here? No, okay, I'll check this. And like, that's my definition of what doom scrolling is. And how many of us do that when we're just doing like literal everyday things? Like probably some of the most historical ideas ever were had when we're doom scrolling. If you think about it, how many people were just sitting on the fucking can, going to the bathroom, didn't want to do any reading, or maybe they were reading and got inspired like through that. But like how many people in history up until the time of smartphones were literally doing some of their best thinking on the toilet, or on the walk from the bus, or whenever it is that you're doom scrolling. Maybe you're on the bus. How many people in history had great ideas just staring out the window, looking at things go by, having their own thoughts? When nowadays, whether you're doom scrolling social media, listening to podcasts like this, whatever it could, we're literally just ingesting and consuming other people's ideas and other people's conversations all the time, instead of actually listening to our own internal conversations, instead of actually processing our own thoughts. And do we like think about and talk about these things as well? No, we don't. We think about and talk about the athletes that we like, the sports teams that we like, the celebrities that we like, the shows that we like. We gossip about people that literally don't know us, don't care about us, and wouldn't even if they met us. Like these people on social media and reality shows and your favorite athlete, would you think they'd fucking want to hang out with you? Honestly, like it's like what the fuck, man. And so yeah, I guess just to recap, sorry to get on a weird little negative note there, a little bit of a, but it's just kind of like you know, as weird and fucked up. Again, here's another hot take. You want to feel better in life? Go outside. Go for a little walk in the rain. Go for a little run. It's not going to hurt you. It's probably good for you, right? Put your phone away. Go out and enjoy a good conversation with somebody that you love. Be like read a book. Be in quiet and see what happens in your brain. Maybe you're going to have some thoughts. Maybe you're going to have some emotions. Maybe you could write them down. Maybe you could read a book about them, And if you're going to read a book, sometimes it's worth kind of doing some of the exercises. If you're reading like a self-help book or a self-development book or whatever, it's worth it to have a little journal beside you and do the little, if it gives you exercises or gives you questions that you think about, or if you just think of your own questions while reading it, try writing it down, and answer the questions, do the work, because you could just ingest information all the time. And this goes the exact same thing for audiobooks and podcasts or anything like that. Like you can ingest information all day. But it's like, are you applying it in your actual life, or are you just kind of reading it or listening to it and then forgetting about it? Or are you actually applying it? Like, are you taking that, so-called intelligence of, hearing a thing and then just knowing it? Or are you, using it as wisdom and applying it in your life? I don't know if that makes sense to you guys, but it kind of makes sense to me. It's something that it's easy to do. It's easy to just read the book and be like, oh, I fucking did it. Like I stack up books of, oh, I read them, and everyone likes to have a shelf of books that they could just pretend that they read those books. They're like, okay, it's a little big, but I'll put it on the shelf. Maybe people will think I read it, but it's another thing to actually think about the information and digest it and okay, how does this apply to my life? How I was literally, sometimes it's just about the questions that you have for yourself while you're reading it. Because I was reading a book today about kind of leadership and etc. And it gave a prompt of a certain amount of questions. And then, but I had this own question just because it talked about the concept of the frog in the boiling water that everyone has heard about. But, I had to go to my journal and ask myself, in what ways in life am I being like a frog in a boiling water pot kind of thing? And, the first few thoughts I had were okay, instantly I know, these are the things that I have to address in my life. Little weird things like that are worth doing. It's worth taking a couple minutes to do those prompts, even though sometimes the idea of what are they called, the affirmation thing and the write down what you want your life to look like in 15 years, those types of things can feel kind of corny, but all of those techniques of visualization of the future are useful to do every now and then. It's good to set yourself up with a little refresh of the vision of what lies ahead. And so I think that's a pretty good place to wrap this up. Basically, I think that the misuse of modern technology is causing what we all try and recognize and coin phrases about. These new terms, personality disorders and issues with socialization, issues with people that have different ideas than us, issues with focusing, issues with confidence, issues with comparison, issues with discipline, issues with attention spans, issues with relationships. All of these things, I think, have a direct correlation to the misuse of technology and social media. And I think that we should go a little bit more towards that kind of 90s vibe of having like, here's a fucking set place for your phone to be. And you go there when you want to use the phone. But you don't use the phone fucking every time you need a little dopamine hit. And I think that there's a lot of things in life that can be solved by asking yourself, like, just because I can do this, does that mean I should do this? Just because I can have this phone in my pocket at all times or in my face at all times, does that mean I should? And like, just because I did it yesterday, does that mean I have to do it today? And, obviously that kind of wisdom can be applied in every aspect of our lives. But I think that a good place to start is with technology, because I think that as it's going to exponentially grow over the next, few years, few months, few decades, whatever it could be, whatever time span you want to look at, it's just going to keep growing and accelerate at the rate that it grows at. And so thinking that it's got some sort of like a disconnection between how we interface with it and our mental health is one of the biggest, like, gravest mistakes that we could possibly make, because we're having more and more people every single year diagnosed with fucking brand new personality disorders and whatever fucking, illnesses. There's brand new mental illnesses every single year. There's millions more dollars being made by people that are just over-prescribing these medications that are not so clearly making a positive impact. And I think it's no surprise that more and more people are suffering from new mental illnesses and new addictions every single year, all relating to these types of things. And it's something to think about, and it's something to take seriously. So just a little prompt, something for you to think about as well. Like, it's you want to make a change in the world, you have to start on an individual level. Maybe go for a walk without your fucking headphones. Just listen to your thoughts. Go through a day, maybe a work day, just like doing the same thing. Do some reading, do some journaling. Set your phone aside. Like, you don't need to have it on you at all times. And maybe test yourself and see, how anxious does it make you? Leave your phone in another room all day. When you get to work, put it down and put it in a place where you're going to intentionally use it. And take a look at your screen time and see if that makes you proud or embarrassed. And take that feeling and use it in a productive way. So on that note, I think that's a great place to wrap this up. I know I said that already, but I mean it this time. See you guys next Monday. Much love. Peace out. Love you all. Bye.